You can bind any property to a SQL query in Ignition. It is important that your query brings back the appropriate value based on the data type of the property that you're binding to. So for example, if you're binding a label's text property to a query, you better bring back a single string. If you're binding a numeric label to a query, you better bring back a numeric value. So let's do a couple of examples. Let's say on my label that I want to bind it to a query to bring back a single string value. I'm going to bind the text property here to a SQL query, and my query is going to select the name from my recipes table where the ID equals 1. Of course, I can specify which database connection to run that query through, which in my case is MySQL. I can specify the polling mode, which I want to just run once, so I'm going to set polling off. And then there's a fallback value here. The fallback value is very important in that if your query does not return a result, then you can enable this and specify what you want the value to actually be. Otherwise, we will error out. So I know that my query here will return results. I'm going to go ahead and press OK, and I can see recipe 1 as the name of that recipe. I can do the same thing on my numeric label. I can go in here and bind the value to a SQL query, again specifying a query that brings back a single result. This time I'm going to bring back SP1, and I'm going to specify where ID equals 10. That recipe does not exist in my database, so of course there's nothing going to be able to come back. So I'm going to go ahead and specify the database connection, MySQL, polling mode off, and I'm going to leave this fallback unchecked. So as soon as I press OK, you're going to see that it errors out. It basically says the query returned no rows, since it doesn't exist in the database. So it's important to either leave that error in so the operator knows that something's wrong, or in your query you can specify a fallback value. So I can say, let's bring back a -1 if nothing exists. As soon as I press OK, you'll see that there's no error, and the value here gets -1. So you can certainly bind individual properties to SQL queries, returning a scalar result.